Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the INNOWWIDE webinar on the recently open call for VAPs. My name is Chiara Davalli, and I am a project manager at EBN, the European Business Innovation Center Network, one of the partners of the INNOWWIDE Consortium. And together with me is Peter Lalvani from Eureka Network. And we are here today to really present you different aspects of the call. Before digging into the technical elements, let's say, of the call, a couple of information, logistic information. First of all, you are all invited to raise your questions in the chat box you have available on your on the platform. We will collect them during the presentation, and we'll answer them the questions at the end of the session. So we first go through all the slides, and then we will answer them. Of course, we'll keep an eye, so if there is a way to answer them even earlier, even better, but otherwise you will get your answers by the end of the webinar, if we have the answer, hopefully. Well, this is the very first information. Second information is that we are quite a lot today on this session, and many couldn't join, indeed, this webinar because it was fully booked. So I would inform you that for you, but also for those that didn't manage to attend this session live, the recordings and the presentation will be made available on INNOWWIDE website, and of course we'll make some noise also on social media. We'll distribute the information also through our newsletter that will be out end of this week, beginning of next week, the latest. Okay, so these were the housekeeper information. And now, before giving the floor to Peter to present the actual call, I would give you a few words of introduction about the overall program, INNOWWIDE program. So first of all, about the objective. So why we are launching these calls for VAPs? Well, the objective we are following, and that was set by the European Commission that is funding us under the Horizon 2020 program, is to indeed bring European highly innovative SMEs to the forefront of international markets. And to do so, we make available grants to companies, to European companies, to work in close collaboration with local stakeholders in the targeted markets outside Europe. The program follows a bottom-up approach, and indeed, we don't have any specific topic we want you to address. It's really, you will see it during the next talks, but it's really from you that the proposal should come in terms of sector, in terms of target country, in terms of innovations you want to internationalize, and so on. Today on this call, it's me and Peter, as I was telling you. We represent two networks, international networks, dealing with innovation, entrepreneurship, incubation, but together with us, it's a big team of European players from different countries. You can see them here. We have with us 6 national funding agencies. Indeed, the two networks we represent, public-private partnership organization and specialized firms in international research innovation management. Without taking too much time, so the INNOWWIDE program goes beyond the 2 calls per se, so the call for VAP we are here presenting today. But basically, through this call, we'll be also analyzing the impact of the activities that will be funding, and we'll see if this type of instrument can really boost and can benefit the European policies for research innovation. And will be promoting not only the action of the project, but also the outcomes and the impact that each VAP, funded VAP, will achieve. So we'll be talking about those of you who will make it through through the call, and indeed, as I was telling you, we'll be drafting some policy conclusions that will be very useful in the definition also of the next research innovation framework. So I stop. Yes, and this to tell you that today we are presenting the call, the first call for VAP. The INNOWWIDE program is going to launch 2 calls during the project lifespan. And we are managing a total budget of 72 million euro. With this budget, we are funding 120 VAPs. And these viability assessment projects, we expect that will be targeting markets in developing countries, in large emerging economies such as Brazil, Russia, India, China, and Mexico, and developed countries. So really open to the world, for following the third O Commissioner Moeda has been pushing for in the last couple of years. Just one thing before we dig into the discussion about the first open call that was launched 9 days ago. We would launch a few polls to understand who's on this webinar today, and to have also an idea on how we can further improve our services in this period, in this time frame where when the call is open. So how to better support you. So let's see. First of all, I would ask you to answer this question. So what is your organization? So what type of organization are you representing? I give you 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. And I close this poll. Okay. Nice. Okay, I see that most of you are SMEs, 60%, 17% are incubators, and service sector is another 15%, and then smaller percentages representing R&D centers and tech centers. Okay, let's go to the second question I have for you. We would like to ask you, where are you based? If you are in Europe or if you are outside Europe, if you are better representing an organization from Europe or from one of the possible target markets. Another 5 seconds, and I close this poll. Okay, thank you. 90% from Europe. Okay. Okay, now we go for a third question that it's about your sector of activity, in which sector you're active. We have 3 batches, so I will keep open the poll for 10 seconds, then we move to the second one and to the third one. So the list couldn't fit in just one poll. Okay, so here is the first one. You have 10 seconds to answer this one. If you don't belong to any of these sectors, you have other 2 lists coming soon. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so we go to the second list for the sector of activity. 10 seconds. So if you are in any of these sectors, please let us know. Great. Thank you. And then the third part of this list of sectors, please let us know if you are in one of these sectors. Again, we are collecting this information. We are asking this information to have an idea of who's on this webinar today, and nothing else. It's not that we are profiling you. Okay, great. I'm going to close it now. Okay, we still have 2 more questions. First one is about the country you are targeting. So if you're on this call today, on this webinar today, it's because you're already thinking of working with given market, either in indeed developing countries, in large emerging economies, or in developed countries. So let us know. 5 more seconds. Okay. Thank you. 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And then what type of partners you are looking for, or you are considering to involve in these targeted markets. If you are counting to work with suppliers, customers, consultants, R&D providers, and so on. Five seconds. And we close this one. Okay, great. Most of you are planning or looking to work with or looking for customers mainly. And then suppliers, consultant, and R&D providers. Legal advisor is not that relevant for this group. Okay, so thank you very much. This was very useful for us. I would then close, let's say, this introductory session and give the floor to my colleague, to Peter. 1 second. Okay. And so yes, we can start presenting the call into in more details.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Chiara, for the introduction and for the polls, for the information, which is very interesting for us to see and helps us to tailor the rest of the webinar to the audience. I hope everyone can hear me and see my screen properly. So I'll continue with going into a bit more detail, as Chiara was saying, on the so-called viability assessment projects, the projects which are being funded with via INNOWWIDE, and I'll provide more details on those. and answer some of the questions which have already come up in the last week since the call has been open. So that's the first part of my my part, and then in the second part of my my session, I'll be showing a bit more about the portal which you'll use to register and to apply for the call. So moving on to showing a bit more detail of the INNOWWIDE call. Sorry, I'll just move on my presentation. Just to check with Chiara, is the screen, my screen is showing okay?
It's showing okay, but it's not moving.
It's not moving on. Here we go. Let me move that on manually.
Okay.
So as Chiara said, INNOWWIDE will have two calls. The first call opened on the 1st of April, is open until the 31st of May. Both calls will look to fund 120 VAPs, and the funding available is 60,000 euros per project, per VAP project. So the idea here, I think Chiara's already mentioned this, but is to bring the ideas of European and also Horizon 2020 partner countries. So to bring the ideas of SMEs based in these countries to these third countries, to these third markets, where the lead, so the project, the beneficiary will be from the European and the Horizon 2020 partner country, and the targeted market. So let's say the market where you'll need, as an SME from one of the lead countries, you'll need an SME, you'll need a partner from, we call a subcontractor, in fact, from one of the target countries. So as we've seen, that there's an equal split in terms of the audience today, from the developing countries, from the large emerging economies, and from the developed countries. The European or partner country SME will need to engage in a partnership or a subcontracting relationship with a partner from one of those three sets of countries. Now, just to clarify at this stage, the aim is that, and let's say the obligation is that you have a partner, a subcontractor, in one of those countries. So you focus on one country in your project, and I'll get into a few more details about that subcontracting, and feel free to ask questions as well. I'll also mention that the best place for further information is the INNOWWIDE website, so innowwide.eu. There's a section with documents. You'll find the call text and the call guidelines there. And by the end of this week, so by the end of Friday, we'll have an FAQ, which is collecting a lot of the questions which have been raised over the these first 2 weeks with the call open, and they'll be going into the first version of the FAQ, which will be published on the website by the end of the week. So keep a lookout for that. That will clarify a lot of the questions, some of which we'll talk about today, but there'll be obviously other questions as well, which will be covered in that FAQ. So the VAPs, the viability assessment projects, are intended to be comprehensive, balanced, coherent sets of preliminary technical, market, legal, and socio-economic assessments intended to validate the viability of international innovative business solutions along emerging global value chains. So basically, they are intended to be quite wide-ranging. These VAPs, we're looking for projects which can assess framework conditions related to the deployment of collaborative solutions and models in the target third countries. So we are looking to include, and I'll go into this in a bit more detail, different elements within the project. So they must feature a co-creation partnership with the local partner. So there must be an element of collaborative innovation here. As we've seen a lot of SMEs in the audience today, looking at say a partnership with a customer, but also you can have suppliers. A lot of people interested in developing that relationship, consultants or legal advisors. But there must be this kind of co-creation, this innovative collaboration aspect there. There can be a wide range of activities. In fact, there should be a wide range of activities. I'll go into that in a little bit more detail soon. Exploring the practical, technological and commercial viability of these innovative solutions. So exploring different angles to the deployment of this solution in the target country. It's also intended that these VAPs, which obviously are quite relatively small projects from an R&D and I perspective, but they're meant to be the first phase of a potential innovative cooperation project with that actor in that country in the short or medium term. So the idea is that they lead to a more in-depth, a more long-term cooperation, so it's a continuing process. So this is really meant to feed into something bigger and more longer lasting than these projects, which last 6 months, which is also there on the slide. They're fixed at 6 months. That's the length of the project. It also mentions here a little bit about how the grant is calculated. It's 60,000 euros for the successful project. 50% of that will be deployed at the beginning of the project once the grant agreement has been signed, and the remaining 50%, the remaining 30,000 euros, is dependent upon the delivery of the project, which will be checked in a final report at the end of the project. So 50% at the beginning and 50% at the end to the beneficiary, the SME. Obviously, the subcontracting part of that is really up to a large extent up to the SME, but that has to be there, the subcontracting element, and we do ask for, at the stage of the grant agreement, we do ask for the contract to be provided. So in terms of the first category, and this is all information which is included on the call text and the guidelines, so don't worry if you don't catch it right here, you can go and find that on those documents, and obviously on the recording as well. So the first category is the co-creation and technology uptake facilitation. So the project will be expected to have 4 elements from here. So you see the list of different aspects of co-creation which we've defined, and so 4 of these will be you'll be required to tick 4 of these areas in your application form. So that's a very important element, which you can see there. The next very important element is the market research, so the more of the commercial side, and we're looking for at least 4 of these aspects to be included. So business opportunity survey, qualitative consumer analysis, product commercial research, and you'll see the rest of them there. And as I said, these are in the documents, so that's 4 of those. At least 1 activity relating to compliance verification, and then there's some optional activities as well. So these are the activities which you'll be asked in the application form to justify in terms of well, to choose, and then to identify in terms of costs. So what you expect to be spending on each of those activities. Now, just to clarify again, so any SME from any sector in EU states or Horizon 2020 associated countries will be eligible to apply. Now, the first call has been launched, in fact, on the 1st of April, and what we're doing here is we are so the applications are open until the 31st of May, but the submission will only be open from the 1st of May. So you can, and you're encouraged to go into the system, the portal, and to save your application, to start your applications. You can begin them already. You can save them. You can use the portal to ask questions to us, to communicate with us through the portal. So that you're encouraged to do. But we are still, as we are still collecting questions to feed into our FAQ, we'll be publishing a final FAQ by the end of the month. So the first version will be out on the website by the end of the week. You can use that to continue your applications or start your applications. Sorry, I think the audio cut out. The final FAQ will be published by the end of April, and the submissions will be open. So you'll be able to actually submit your saved applications on the 1st of May. So there'll be a month in which you can actually submit the applications, but you can already go into the system. I'm sure some of you have already done this, and save your applications and start to work through the different sections in the application form. And there will be a second call, which will be launched probably in December of this year. So that second call is coming as well. So I think there's just, yeah, this is a little bit more information on the timeline. Once the call has finished, we'll be processing the applications, and for the successful projects, we can expect the grant signatures to be signed at the end of September, and the project implementation to begin in October, possibly November time. So October is really let's say October, that's when we can expect the projects to actually begin, 6 months, which will take us to around April next year. So that's the timeline we're looking at for the projects. In terms of how do you apply? Well, as I said, the INNOWWIDE website has all the information. You can click through to the portal. From there, you can get the guidelines and the call text and the information you need. You'll need to complete the registration form, set up an account, and then you'll be able to get into the system and complete your application between the 1st and the 31st, or rather to submit your application between the 1st of May and the 31st of May, but you can already obviously go onto the system and start your applications. You will be contacted with the results of that by 1st of October. So I hope that was useful for just giving you a bit more details on the project. Sorry, on the program and on what you'll be needing to do in your project. As I said, the website is the best place for you to find information, and it also provides the link to the portal that you'll use to apply for the scheme. So this is the home page. If I click on Apply Now, I will get through to the login page for the portal. So here you also have the link back to the website. You can also find the guidelines to the program, and you can click on register here if it's your first time and you have, in order to set up an account. So I hope everyone can see this okay. I'm clicking through now. I've clicked through to register, and I would need to complete the details of my organization, country I come from, some more address details, website, phone number, VAT number. I can copy the address into my personal contact details. Then you would need to have a main person contact here. And a few more details to fill out. This would be copied in from the top, from the organization, and then just a question about how you heard about INNOWWIDE. So once you've completed that, you will be sent your password with which you can log in to the website. And I'll just briefly take you through the portal, because this can be helpful, and we're already having questions about the portal. Once you log in, you will find a page like this, where you'll see, so you'll have this screen. It says, please click on funding opportunities to apply, which means you click on the left-hand side here. It turns blue so when you hover over it, so you know where to click. Once you have saved your application and you want to return to it, when you log in again, you can click. You'll see that this in progress turns to 1. So funding opportunities, that's the 1 relates to INNOWWIDE. And once you've already started your application and you log back in, you'll have a 1 under in progress. So this is the first time I'm entering the platform. I click on 1 on funding opportunities, and I click on apply now. So here I'm already given some more information about the call and about how to navigate the system, and some advice on how to complete the different parts of the form. So I'd advise you to read through that. It gives you a link back to the guidelines in case you need to check those. Some information about how data is used, and there's a more detailed data policy on the website, and some details on how to use the help desk. And so the first thing I can do is, if I save my draft straight away, I'll see that on the left-hand side, I get a function called notes. If I click on notes, I can create a note, and this is the help desk functionality. So I create a note to INNOWWIDE, and that is the way I communicate with the help desk. So when I create a note here, this gets sent to the INNOWWIDE team. We can pick that up and we can help you with your request. So we ask for all queries relating to applications on the platform to go through this notes functionality. That way we can help you most efficiently. We will communicate to you through the notes facility as well, and you'll see that on your system, and you also get an email to tell you that you've got a note. And this way all the communication stays on the platform, and you don't need to go and look for emails to communicate with us. So here is the application form. I'll just briefly go through the main sections. So you have a general information section. Some of you have already filled these out, where we ask for some general details on the project, a short summary, which is very important as well. I mean, all of these are obligatory fields, so you'll have to fill in these, apart from maybe the very lowest level of detail in terms of technical areas and market areas, but you'll see that when you come to it. So this is a general introduction to the project. So this is very important overall information. We ask for some financial information from you regarding your accounts. So this helps us to assess what level of documentation we need, and this is a sort of a guide which is reacts to your answers. So you'll be able to sort of this will take you through and provide you with the information you need to complete that. In terms of the financial viability, we do ask you to download an Excel sheet and to upload that. That again relates to some financial details which we ask you to provide, and some additional documentation, but this is all explained in the guidelines, and feel free to come back to us if you have any more questions. There'll be more information in the FAQ as well, where that's not clear. So then we have the ethics side. This is a standard Horizon 2020 questionnaire on ethics issues. And then we get into the detail of the application. So in terms of the excellence area, here you can select the different, as I mentioned before, the different activities which you will be engaging in the project. Here you can see it tells you to tick at least 4 of the boxes. Here as well, in the marketing part, 4 of the boxes. And at least 1 box from the next one, and then some optional. So here's where you really click and you choose the activities you'll be engaging in, and then some more details about what type of business opportunity or problem you're looking at, the positioning of the VAP, whether you're creating a new company. So you'll have to go through all of these questions and answer all of those. An impact section which talks also about the end users, the partner that the subcontractor that you're working with, so more about the end users and the effect on the target country and the target market as well, and some figures which are easily completed using this pop-up. So some expected impact figures that you can envisage, and in how many years you expect that to be achieved. So these are sort of standard questions in these types of programs at a national level or European level. How will you maximize impact, how you disseminate your results, and so forth, IP strategy, and so forth. The last main section here is the impact section. So let me just move on here. Sorry, the implementation section, impact was already there. And here, more practical details about how you intend to implement with the different resources at your disposal in the project. And a work plan and Gantt chart also required here as well. So happy to, if you'd like to submit any questions you've got about this on the chat functionality, I'm happy to look into those. As I say, a lot of the questions will be answered in the FAQ, which will be published soon on the website. And yeah, I think from my side, that's what I wanted to say in terms of the platform. And yeah, so Chiara, will you take on the next? I'll pass it back to you then for the next part.
Yes, I can take it. Okay.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we started receiving some questions. I see that more are coming. So Peter, this is like internal information. If you want to start looking at the questions on the chat,
Yeah, I'll
while
do that.
I present here a few more slides that are about the support you can get from the team of INNOWWIDE program in this phase. So first of all, we know that going through the application form, the guidelines and so on, you might have more and more questions coming up. So please contact the INNOWWIDE help desk. So Peter showed you a little bit the website. I'll show it again at the very end just to show you where you can access all these features, these services. So please use the INNOWWIDE help desk functionality to address us all questions. This because it simplifies a little bit the process on our side in addressing all of them, and also because this way we can easily update also the FAQ session that Peter was mentioning before. So probably many of you, most of you have already in mind a partner that want to work with in the targeted country. But if it's not the case, and if you are looking for suitable partners, the right connections and so on, we are here to help also in this sense and to help you finding your match. So again, we have developed the so-called INNOWWIDE matchmaking tool. It's a simple tool where we ask you to profile your company and to give us some information about the partner you have in mind in targeted country. And we'll process this the requests we receive through the matchmaking feature in order to find and propose you a few options in the targeted country. We do so by leveraging the networks that are part of the consortium and the networks of the partners of the consortium. So if you consider that the national funding agencies have offices in many countries outside Europe first, so this is an option. We have EBN and Eureka networks have members outside Europe again, and plus INNOWWIDE and the partners again are partnering with other European funded initiatives, for example, the Enrich centers in the US, in China and Brazil, or other platforms that allow us to reach out serious and trusted partners in these countries. So get in touch by using the matchmaking tool, and we'll do our best to propose you at least a couple of potential partners. Well, another message for you is to keep an eye on our website, especially on the events page, news and events page, where we are highlighting the upcoming online and face-to-face sessions where you can meet the team, ask for clarifications, and of course get clarifications about the call and so on. All the online sessions are recorded, as I was telling you, and materials are made available on our website and social media. We have then another line of opportunity that is offered by INNOWWIDE. So of course the big effort is on collecting or encouraging as many companies as possible to apply for the VAP call. But we also have on our website open a call for experts. As briefly mentioned before, the evaluation is carried out by external experts. So it's carried out by experts that are not part of the consortium. And we are therefore building the pools of experts that will be running the evaluations during the first call and the second call. So you can apply to become an expert, and you can do it through the INNOWWIDE website again. And what are we looking for in terms of expertise? Well, co-creation technology uptake facilitation, so tech transfer services, and market prospection and research experience are basically the main areas we ask you to present about your profile. As I was telling you, our evaluation is carried out by these external experts. Is a two-stage evaluation, and each entry, each proposal is evaluated by two independent experts remotely that will follow the INNOWWIDE criteria. You saw the different criteria before, and again the guidelines are presenting them in even more details. And in the guidelines we also propose some possible KPIs, quantitative and qualitative ones, you can take into account when you develop your proposal. And then the second stage, it's about ranking. So consider that in order to be considered for the grant, you need to meet or to reach a minimum threshold, and then all the proposals that will be on or above this threshold will be ranked, and based on this ranking will be distributing the grants. Again, everything is detailed, is well presented in the guidelines. If you have any question, this is the right time to raise them, and at the same time, this is also the right time. So you have time, as I was telling you, to present them through the help desk whenever you want. Here, if you look at the INNOWWIDE website, look at the top menu, and you can find the help desk on the right corner, and the same for the matchmaking tool. So here, just to give you an idea, you just you don't have to log in, nothing. You just fill in the forms here, and you just simply submit them, and we receive everything, and we'll process them as soon as possible. Okay, time for questions. I started collecting them, and so we can maybe start answering them. So Peter, if you also want to unmute yourself, so we start answering them, and I keep posting the different questions here on the presentation.
Yeah, so thanks, Chiara. I've been answering some of them directly to the questioners on the chat functionality, but maybe just to answer some of the more commonly asked ones. Somebody asks if you can apply for more than one grant if you have interest in 3 different countries. It's 1 grant per company, so it doesn't make sense to include more, multiple applications, because only 1 application will be taken into account. So this is a pilot scheme, and the policy is really 1. At this stage, you have 1. Certainly for this call, 1 application is valid, and normally that will be the first application you make. So I know some people have already put more than 1 application on our system. What we'll have to do is take off we'll have to only focus on 1 application there. So I would encourage you to focus on your most important country, the country where you think you really have an interest, the strongest possibilities. If you're looking at more than 1, we'll see about the situation in the second call. But for the first call, you have to choose 1 country. 1 country, 1 project. Let's see, somebody else asked about starting the project. Well, I think it was the same person asked about starting the project before you get the results. I would be careful incurring costs before the project starts, because if you don't get the funding, obviously, you know, those are your costs. Any costs, let's say, included in the application should only really they should only take place after, they should only be incurred after the beginning of the project. So
during the project implementation, the 6 months you have available.
Exactly, and obviously that doesn't mean you can already start to inquire and to make your research and to contact people, but you know, the project itself, we stay with the timeline that was presented, which is from October to April is the 6 months timeline. We have another question here. How and when do we provide the 30% of participation for funding? Yes, because the funding is only up to 70% of the total eligible costs. You will have to provide the rest. You know, we'll be asking you to put your at least 86,000 euros of eligible costs to define that to some extent in the application. To go in according to each activity, what type of costs you will incur, and obviously the rest of that, the 30%, will be up to you to find that. I don't know if any other questions sort of stick out for you, Chiara, and how much. I mean, we have another roughly 10 minutes, I think, to answer some more of these. I think we've had the same question there, May and SME.
Yeah, there were a couple that I think are quite interesting. So one, it's about, yes, that came out a couple of times. It's about the subcontracting. When do we select the subcontractor? Do we have to follow a special procedure? If they need to provide documents at submission stage, for example, including financial viability check and okay, and then there is another question so about the subcontracting, you need to show that there is a commitment to work together. The stronger the evidence is, the better. But we
and that, sorry, just to add that there, Chiara, that at the grant agreement stage, we'll be asking for a signed contract.
Yeah.
That does give you some months to find and to establish the relationship. Obviously, the grant agreement will be finalized in September. So at the application stage, which means by the end of May, you need to provide a name and some evidence of contact, which would mean uploading some emails, but I mean some evidence of that contact. But you wouldn't be expected to have a signed agreement in place by the end of May. You would have until September to provide that evidence. So just to let you know, you do have some time to kind of to establish the partner. We would expect you to name and to be in contact with the partner before the end of May. But in terms of a signed agreement, we'll only be asking for that by the end of September, or by September. If you are a company from a third country, or any entity from a third country, and you're interested in the program, I would say you need to find a European partner or a partner from a H2020 partner country to actually be the main beneficiary for the project. But I think that was clear already from the presentation. Somebody asked if they need to demonstrate costs and expenses. That won't be necessary in detail, but at the end of the project, we have a final report where you'll be expected to to provide information on what you have actually spent in the different activities and whether that matches your initial plan. But we won't be, certainly not in every case, we won't be checking individual receipts, for example, for expenses. So let's say there's a level of detail we don't go into, and it wouldn't be practical to go into for every company. Somebody else asks about the subcontracting relationship. I mean, really, it's the beneficiary is the EU or Horizon 2020 partner country. So the financial, you won't be expected to share any financial information with the subcontractor. That was the question as well from somebody. The subcontractor, really, it's your relationship with the you have the relationship with the subcontractor. So between INNOWWIDE, we have the relationship with you. We're funding on behalf of the European Union. We're funding the SME, and then that SME has the relationship with the subcontracting relationship with the partner country. So we don't really have a direct relationship as such with the subcontractor.
And this also refers to question 17, for example, financial information of an SME will be visible to the subcontractor. Now, again, what you send us, the relationship between us and the applicant is confidential. Then it's up to you to deal with your subcontractor. There were other, yes, talking about subcontractors, another question is the same subcontractor can be involved in more than one VAP. So for example, if two different European companies work with the same subcontractor, is it an issue?
I don't think that's an issue. That's not something we've really envisaged so much. I mean, obviously, if it were to happen on a massive scale, then I think we would probably have to think about that a bit more. But that's not an issue we've really identified. So I think for the moment we can say that's really not a problem, unless we start seeing obviously the same subcontractor in
everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
There was another question, two questions about the assessment criteria, the evaluation criteria, and then there is also this one about if project ideas with social environmental impact involve society or particular interests. Again, you find all the criteria in the guidelines, but we also look at the impact. So also in terms of social and environmental impact, it's something we look at, experts will look at. And then indeed the evaluation criteria refer to the three pillars that Peter mentioned before: impact, excellence, and quality and efficiency of implementation. Page 24 of the INNOWWIDE implementing guidelines, you find the details and also how the three sections, the three pillars are weighted. So 40% for the impact and 30% for the other two sessions. And as I was telling you, we also suggest some KPIs you can take into account when developing your proposal.
Yeah, just to mention, in terms of the impact, obviously it's a €60,000 grant with a project worth around €86,000 minimum. So in terms of the actual impact, we're realistic about the impact that can be achieved with this level of project. But as we said, we're looking for something where it has the potential to grow into something bigger, and that's really the aim, I think, behind these projects. It's about feeding into something larger. It should be synergistic with other maybe other funding tools eventually that we're looking at developing, and either within Eureka, which is obviously that's where I work, one of the partners in the consortium, but also other instruments. So yeah, it's not meant to be an isolated tool. It's something that should obviously feed into your plans and to other instruments as well.
Actually, there was a question that was asking if a company can apply for both the SME instrument phase 1 and INNOWWIDE at the same time.
Yeah, so there's no problem with applying, I think, for different different programs, but you wouldn't be allowed to receive funding for the same activities. So
exactly,
you wouldn't, if you present obviously the same project with the same activities in two different places, then that's not allowed, and you'll be asked to to declare that you are not seeking funding for these activities anywhere else, public funding. You'll be asked to declare that when you apply.
And let me see if there are major questions. So again, we will look again at all the questions we received today, and we'll try to answer them all in the first release of the FAQ end of this week. And if you still don't get the answer you were looking for, please contact us through the help desk. Okay. Here, in terms of partners, if it can be a consultancy firm, if there are any specific characteristics, if they have to follow any specific procedure for selecting these partners, no. Just one thing that yes, maybe we would recommend is that in as general rule, that the efficient way of using the public money is a criteria, no, for evaluation. So, for example, when looking and selecting partners, especially minor ones, you can ask, I mean, not only minor ones, all partners, you can also ask, for example, for different quotes in order to show that you actually picked the best value for money available in the targeted country. So this is a strong recommendation we do. Yeah. And what else? In terms of budget allocation, no, there are no specific rules on how this should be the composition of the budget. Of course, it has to make sense with the overall proposal, the type of activities you propose, the plan, the Gantt chart, and so on. So as far as it is coherent with the overall proposal, there are no specific rules in this sense.
Yeah, I mean, just there's a couple of questions about the maximum or minimum subcontracting amount. I think the subcontracting amount has to be sufficient to to justify to show that there's a real partnership in the sense that, okay, it's called a subcontract, but we do want to have this co-creation relationship, so not purely a customer in the sense that there is just there's a distributor or some just a purely commercial relationship. I would say that more of a co-creation, a relationship of not equal, but that both parties are involved in the innovation, in bringing the innovation to market in the third country. If that makes sense, that there is a bigger role for the subcontractor than just simply distributing, for example, or selling the product. So as I say, we're looking for an innovative projects where a product or service is developed according to local market conditions. Now, whilst that doesn't have to be completed by the end of the project, there does need to be this co-creation, this sort of involvement of the subcontractor in developing the idea in real activities to develop the idea as well locally. And more information and more examples will be provided of this. In fact, another thing we'll be uploading is a sample application form where you can see this a bit more clearly in the examples provided. So this will also be uploaded in the coming days to the website, where we will have a clearer example of what we are talking about. Yeah. So that should hopefully then clarify, you know, for example, the question, somebody had a question about how can a customer be a subcontractor? Yeah, so there'll be examples of this provided on the website, so you can see that more clearly. I don't know if there's any other questions you wanted to pick out, Chiara, from the.
Not.
Somebody asked about governmental partners. I mean, the subcontractor can be. We don't really specify what type of entity it should be, but yeah. So it could be, you know, university, could be a research institute, or a private company, an SME, even a large company. But there does need to be a real relationship, a real sort of collaboration there.
And well, I think that we answered most of the questions. Okay, probably about the co-funding mechanism. So yes, so INNOWWIDE is covering 70% of costs. So you should submit a proposal that values 86,000 euro to get the 60,000 euro grant. And yes, you can decide how to co-fund this, if it's by putting your HR, if it is by getting additional public or private funds, and so on. So this is up to you to show us how you're going to co-fund the scheme. Risk of losing the grant if the subcontracting agreement.
So this is something that I think it comes back to the question of when should you start the project.
Yeah.
And I mean, if, for example, if you name a subcontractor and then the subcontractor drops out somehow and you can't reach a signed agreement, I think that would, you know, you wouldn't be able to apply for the funding in the end. So you would not receive the funding, but and then we would have to see, you know, what would happen if they dropped out in the middle of the project. That's another question. But if between the evaluation phase, where you've been evaluated on the basis of a proposal, if after that, say before you receive the grant, if that partner somehow, if the signed agreement if you can't reach a signed agreement, a signed contract with that organization, then you wouldn't receive your funding. So it wouldn't be a question of paying back that funding. If the project then started and the project, you know, you receive, let's say, the first 50%, and then that partner drops out, then we would have to, there are provisions in place in our grant agreement that we could actually have to ask you for the money back. So, I mean, this is something we would have to obviously look into in more detail. But if the activities are not, in the end, for whatever reason, not completed at the end of the project, there is a provision that the initial 50% could have to be reimbursed. And that's something we need to protect to protect the money which is being spent, the EU money which is being spent in the program. So yeah, but more details will be provided on the cases, and that's obviously something for a bit later down the line when the projects have actually sort of been when we get to the grant agreement stage, I would say.
Well,
I think for the slides, some people are asking about the slides. They will be circulated,
yes.
right, Chiara?
Yes. So as soon as we finish, I process the recording, and you will receive the link to the recording of the full session plus the slides. And I will also, so as I was telling you, coming days we are updating the website. You'll find the same information there, plus the FAQ that is also going to be feed with the questions we received today. Actually, thank you very much for all the questions you raised. So if you didn't receive the proper answer yet, we'll be going through them again, and will take a bit of time to answer them, and to make also eventually links with guidelines, documents. So for example, a few questions about associate countries, which are the countries that fit into the 3 different categories. You have all this information in the guidelines. Again, this is really a recommendation we have for you. Please read the guidelines carefully, because you find lots of information over there. And then, of course, we are here to help. So then don't hesitate to contact us. If, Peter, you don't have any other comment, or let's say,
No.
okay, info, I would say that.
So just say thank you for the to the attendees, and thank you for all the questions again. It's really good to see the interest. It's a pilot scheme, and that's why we are some things developing still as we go along. But it's really good to see all the interest from the SMEs. Yeah.
Yes, so this is a nice way to tell you that competition is very high. So take your time to build the right partnerships, to write your proposal in a clear manner. And yes, the last call to action for you is to get in touch with us. You have so you saw the matchmaking tool, you saw the help desk. Still, you have the general email info@innowwide.eu that you can use to get in touch again with us. And please feel free to use also our social media for direct exchanges. We try to post as much as possible also some tips, some information about upcoming sessions, events, and so on. So we are on Facebook and on Twitter as INNOWWIDE, @INNOWWIDE. So it's quite simple. That's it. Again, I would thank you very much. I join Peter in thanking you for your attention today, and well, good luck with this first call of INNOWWIDE. Have a nice afternoon and evening, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.